generous friends from CBS This Morning. Now, but before we go into a couple things, I want to talk about the other people in the room. Let's talk about what the president did not say in this speech. Were there things that you expected him to touch on, policies or subjects?
The furloughed workers.
To say something about the people who lost.
Stacey Abrams touched on it. You know, when you
in the
think
Democratic
about,
response.
Yes, when you think about the people who've been living paycheck to paycheck, who had missed one paycheck, and many missed a second paycheck, how that just totally upended your lives. I thought he was going to say something about that.
And he made a big show during the shutdown of saying, they agree with me, they want this.
Yes, yeah, they
and
support this.
There's no real inroads made with the China negotiations, too. Remember, March 1st is the tariff deadline. He said, oh, we're making progress. No specifics given, and this is something that could really destabilize the economy if we don't see progress being made before the deadline.
One thing I thought that he could have done that was symbolic was George Bush in 2007 at his State of the Union started his speech by saying, it is my great honor to, and then turned to Madam Speaker, acknowledging Nancy Pelosi, then told the story of her father, the mayor of Baltimore. Took that moment to acknowledge that she was there and that the election had happened. It was a gimme, which is to say, you talk about an olive branch, it's just a gimme to say, I acknowledge you, your power, and everybody would have loved it, and everybody would have said, boy, he really showed that he is putting something behind these claims of unity and bipartisership.
I think
He just started
went
before,
into it.
Yeah.
But John, do you think that he forgot, or do you think that it was a bit of a... Seriously. Do you think that he forgot to do that, or didn't know to do that, or it was a bit of a dig?
I don't know. They chose not to acknowledge that, which
I think he remembered to be rude.
I don't know.
Okay, wait. We got to keep moving here. The power has shifted. Okay, so that's one example. Do you think that he feels it? Is this in any way different? Is this a different Trump than a year ago when he addressed that chamber?
Absolutely. It was clear he knew he was going into a divided government. There are those routine calls for unity, but there seemed to be an abundance of it tonight in that speech. He did seem to be trying to reach across the aisle, at the same time threatening them to end the investigations. But make no mistake, just like we saw it on TV, he saw the sea of white out there. He saw a different Congress looking back at him, and he thought to himself probably, dang, I had a whole Republican Congress for 2 years. I should have done more that first 2 years.
You think he said dang?
Dang.
Yeah, yes.
Also think about this. His nickname for Nancy Pelosi is Nancy.
Yeah.
So he knows...
That's a real zinger.
Yeah, it's real.
And you could see the power that she held in that room. There's been a lot of concern about discontent within the Democratic Party as well. And you would see moments where it looked like maybe some of the newly elected Democrats would speak out or boo or something. And you saw Nancy just say this.
Oh, yeah, no, she was given
Right.
She said earlier in the day, Bianna, there will be decorum in the House.
Yes.
And she sort of set that tone from the very beginning.
What do you think it's like?
Her face did not show. It did not look like he was sparking joy with her. He was not.
No, she's looking at the speech.
No, I think she'd like to Marie Kondo him right out of her house.
Yes.
No, Stephen, she's looking at the speech like, how many more pages is this?
So she's sitting there. She's sitting there next to Pence.
Yeah.
What do you think that's like to be sitting next to Mike Pence for that entire thing?
Well, he's going to be on tomorrow. We can ask him.
That's right.
Please.
CBS This Morning.
Please.
I'm going to say Stephen Colbert wants to know.
Just say, I didn't think you were allowed to spend that much time with a woman who's not your wife.
His wife was there.
So
Yeah, she was keeping an eye on
all
him.
is fine. How about norms? The State of the Union is one of the great repeated ceremonies of the presidency. It's full of norms and ceremony. I've only watched it on TV. You people have all been down in Washington, D.C. Has he kept up the norms of the State of the Union?
Largely, yeah. I mean, I think since Woodrow Wilson, he started delivering them in person to the whole joint Congress. It's become much more of a political speech. He seems to be going a lot longer, though, than some of our previous presidents. He's really stretching it out.
He was Clinton-esque.
He's really kind of stretching it out. But
kind of the Republicans' fault, because they were applauding, they were giving him standing ovations between syllables of words.
The bar is low.
But I mean, but it was an audible reminder of just how locked in the party is to that president. And that's not an insignificant thing as he faces investigations and faces all of these roiling troubles.
Because if he goes down, it's going to be very hard for them to abandon ship.
It would be impossible. They have stood by him.
It'll be hard.
I predict much of what we heard tonight will be forgotten by the end of the week or next week.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I
Well, CBS This Morning airs weekdays at 7 a.m. The CBS This